In the previous video, I rolled up into North Carolina for some motorcycle camping and fishing. And after a couple of days hanging out in the mountains, I rolled across a fantastic highway, 40 plus miles long, across the mountains of North Carolina into Tennessee. As you can see, the state of North Carolina takes this road very seriously. As it turns out, this road is much more dangerous than the dreaded tail of the dragon. Lots more deaths every year on this stretch of road. It's a good bit longer. It's much faster, and people take this road for granted because the roads are just the turns are not as tight. They're long, wide sweepers, and as a result, people die on this road a good deal more than the dragon. In fact, speeds can reach 70 plus miles an hour on this road. Unlike the dragon, well, there's a few sections on the dragon that you can get up that fast if you're nutty enough. But you can see right here, I can easily get up to probably 70 on this stretch right here, and the turns really sneak up on you sometimes. The North Carolina side, it's about half of the Skyway is on the North Carolina side, half is on the Tennessee side. The half that's on the North Carolina side, the roads are nicer, the pavement's nicer, the turns are very well marked. There's even flashing safety lights in one turn in particular, solar powered flashing lights, and lots of paint, lots of details, and obviously the trickier portions are on the North Carolina side, but there's lots of decreasing radius turns at the bottom of hills on the Tennessee side too. But it's easy to get distracted because you get up on these ridges and it's just beautiful. There's lots of overlooks on this road. Depending on the time of day and the time of week, there's lots of traffic, but nowhere near as much traffic as the dragon. The dragon turns into a parking lot on the weekends, and this thing is rarely a parking lot. Even the slowest riders are going 30, 40, 50 plus miles an hour on this road. And like you can see, there's long, straighter stretches on this road that will tend to catch up to you if you're not paying attention, especially if you're looking off the side of the mountain, which there's a lot of those. There's a lot of stretches. This road runs along the ridge of several mountains, and with riding on almost on top of the ridge, you get to see a pretty nice panorama. I'm kind of up here on a turnout, and a good place to pull off. And I highly recommend that you ride this road if you get a chance. But take your time. There's no need to bust through here, especially if you're riding with a group of folks. Some folks may have a different skill level than you, and they may tend to run off and leave you, and there's no need to catch up to them. There's lots of places to stop and look off. You don't have to look at the spectacles while you're riding. You can actually turn off on some of the better spots and just take your time, and take your time to get across this thing. It's a pretty long journey, and it rises to a mile high in the mountains, and there's lots of weather changes typically up here in the mountains, especially that high up. I've ridden up here in the morning where less than 100-foot visibility, and it's it's really breathtaking to be up in a cloud, and that's really what it turns out to be, is riding in the clouds. Riding through the clouds is pretty intense, and you can get wet up here, you can get really cold, and you can get really dead if you're not paying attention. A lot of the turns you'll see, I'm coming up a slight downhill here, but you pick up speed and you don't realize it until you're in the turn. And I'm not sure which side is better your first time to come in. Maybe coming in on the Tennessee side so you get a feel for these turns that just pop up out of nowhere. You just don't see them in Tennessee. You're just in a turn all of a sudden. So if you get the feel from the Tennessee side, the North Carolina side would probably be a little bit um, more of a continuation of what you saw before, but with added signs. And the turns are tighter on the North Carolina side. There's more turnouts, overlooks, and traffic coming in and out of those. I think that's probably a big danger up here too. Is not only excessive speed, lack of rider skill, misjudgment, distractions, but also the traffic coming in and out of the overlooks, because a lot of those overlooks are in a corner, and you're coming around a corner 40, 50, 60 plus, and somebody's pulling into or out of an overlook. They're in essence, they're violating your right of way, but maybe you don't have that right of way if you're doing 70 miles an hour. So it's a concern, and I think a lot of people don't realize how bad it is until they see a car coming across their lane, turning into or out of one of these overlooks. And I'm not sure how many overlooks there are up here. I would say probably close to 20, maybe more. But you can see I have a brisk pace here. I'm probably doing 60 plus here. I'm not sure the speed limit. I think is, I don't know, 45 in sections. I think it's 45 all the way through the Tennessee section. But the crashes are deadly here just because people are going too fast. I think I read at some point that a majority of the crashes were in the downhill decreasing radius turns, where you're picking up so much speed. You may be averaging 55 and you pick it up to 75 going down this hill because the momentum, and you just don't realize you're about to hit this turn, and you either hit an oncoming car or you hit the guardrail. And 70 miles an hour on a motorcycle coming to a stop really quick is kind of hard on your body. But that's my guess, is that a majority of the crashes up here are misjudgment of speed, skill, and turns, and inability to cope with that, and to recover from your mistake. And if you see a big tree in a corner that's coming up really fast, the odds are you're probably going to steer right into that tree. Target fixation is what they call it, and I'm sure that's one of maybe the major cause up here, in addition to speed and lack of skill and all that. But it's a beautiful road. It's very underrated. A lot of people focus on the Dragon because of all the motorcycles that turn up here. You'll see a lot of them out here too. I pass a few this morning. I think I was running this about 10 o'clock in the morning, and saw quite a few motorcycles, but also the traffic is just much more manageable. Even if you do run up on somebody, you can easily pass them here. Even when they do throttle out of the turns, you can usually get around them pretty easily. And if you have the skills, braking skills, you can pass them as they start slowing down for the corners, because usually the slower riders will start braking really early before the corners, and you can catch them in the corner and throttle out before they get a chance to throttle out. But anyway, this is a beautiful and scenic byway. This thing was built in, I think they finished it in 1996. $100 million, which I think these two states got more than they paid for, at least with bringing in the tourism, the cars, and and the bikes and, all that money that they're getting back, I'm sure it's probably getting close to paying for itself already. And, it's one of the top 10 roads in America, according to quite a few sources. This is one of the top 10 roads. So this is up there with Blue Ridge Parkway. This is what I would consider a smaller version of the Blue Ridge Parkway, although the Blue Ridge Parkway doesn't have near the turns. Their best turns on the Blue Ridge Parkway are on the turnouts typically, and that makes a bit of a danger there too. But there's intersections on the Blue Ridge, and there's not really, until you get onto the Tennessee side, there's not really any intersections here other than the turnouts. So it's a almost a wide open journey if you're into faster routes. If you're into big, long, wide sweepers, this thing is just fantastic. It's very relaxing too. I think that may be another issue, is people just get relaxed riding through this beauty and drop their guard. And but it almost seems like it's endless. And just the trees, the vistas, the overlooks, and occasionally you run into some traffic like these guys. It's a really slow bike up front that was almost stopping in the corners and causing everybody else to back up here. But goes from a few hundred feet in Tennessee up to I think it's 5,400 feet, just over a mile high at the highest peak. And lots to do and see up here. Bring some wet weather gear if you're on a motorcycle. Bring a sweater or a warmer, something because we're up on the highest point here. This is Huckleberry. That's the overlook up there. There's a little hiking trail up there. Anyway, I'm running the highest ridge right here, and very shortly we'll roll into Tennessee and start descending down into the plains, Tellico Plains, in fact. Lots of good riding over there too. But that's it. It's really close to some great riding areas, and if you miss this opportunity to ride the Cherohala, you're missing out on a real treat and a real experience. It's an overlooked road and very underestimated, and something you should probably add to your bucket list of riding, especially if you're in the area. If you're here to ride the Blue Ridge Parkway, you're here to ride the Dragon, don't miss this. Don't miss 28 and lots of other roads in this area that you should check out. But I'm going to stop talking and let Mr. Beethoven take over for the rest of the ride. Enjoy.